Hello and welcome to today's class. Today we're going to be doing another composer that we have never done before, which is Paul Dukas. We're going to be doing the Sorcerer's Apprentice. So why don't we head over to page 3, we'll talk a little bit about this piece, do some listening, and take a look at the music. Well, this was written in 1897. Now this is in the key of F minor, which is the relative of A flat major. We have 4 flats in this key: B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat. So that makes our scale F, G, A flat, B flat, C, D, and if we raised the 7 tone, we just get rid of the flat on the E and it becomes E natural and F. Alright, like last week, we are doing another symphonic tone poem. So the Sorcerer's Apprentice is a symphonic poem inspired by the poem Sorcerer's Apprentice by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. A symphonic poem or tone poem is a piece of orchestral music, usually in a single continuous movement, which illustrates or evokes the content of a poem, short story, novel, painting, landscape, or other non-musical source. The general story. An old sorcerer leaves his workshop. His apprentice stays behind and performs his chores. Tired of carrying pails of water, the apprentice tries to use magic to do the work for him. The apprentice is not trained in magic and does not know how to stop the enchanted broom from bringing in pails of water. The apprentice tries to stop the broom, it says Brooke, by cutting him with an axe, but each piece becomes a whole broom, which fetches pails of water. Soon the room is flooded. The sorcerer returns home and is able to break the spell. The sorcerer scolds the apprentice that only a master should invoke powerful spirits. So we have a lovely orchestral performance of this, and I think we'll listen to the whole thing. It's 11 minutes, but we'll get it all in its entirety all at once. Our piece is just a very small portion of the main theme. So where I thought would be an interesting place to start was where the theme really comes in. And part of the suspense that is built up in this part is in part to the all the resting in between, all the spaces between notes. So when we open up this piece, we have this low dark third in the left hand, just this F and A flat. Now, it's important to kind of figure out how exactly you're going to be counting, so you can count out 5 measures very quickly. Our tempo marking is vif. It is very, very fast. So let's, I'm not sharing my piano screen. Let's go over to here. So we can take a look at how 3/8 affects the time, how to count these resting measures in between. So if we think of about where the main theme kind of starts is, and how fast that goes. So in 3/8, basically we're envisioning the measure to be 1 beat, ba ba bum, kind of like one triplet, da 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 dum, ba bum, ba ba da da dum. So when we play this opening, each snap here is representing an entire measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That takes up the first 12 measures. So heading over to measure 13, we have the first time where we have the rhythm where the upper notes are involved, actually outlining basically our F minor chord, F, A flat, and C. So we have the rhythm of 1, 2, 3, 1. So if in the beginning we're going the speed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it happens once again. 1, 2, 3, 4. So with each measure, if you wanted to subdivide into threes, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And this rhythm is always with beat 1 and beat 3. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So we have that happening twice, each time counting out 4 measures afterwards, and then we have the continual pattern. So this pattern, which starts over at, what measure is this? 25. We now to see that in every measure for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the last two measures of our 8 measure pattern just end this. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, F, C. And that's sort of like the intro to the main theme. So let me take this from the beginning. I know those first 30 some odd measures went really, really quickly. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, F, C. All right, so now we have this main theme that's coming in, which is the part that the bassoons were playing. When we were doing the listening, I accidentally kind of rewound us a minute. I wanted to see what minute marker the main theme comes in, because I think we're going to revisit that a little bit later for watching a little bit of the theme that this is exactly about. So the bassoons were playing the melody. So I really didn't want to make this in a voice that the right hand would be playing, because that's more kind of depicting flute or violin, and bassoon is a much deeper instrument. So we want this to be in left hand. And what's interesting is we're in F minor, and we have notes that are leading up to F. And what we know about the different types of minor scales, like natural minor, harmonic minor, melodic minor, is they all have slightly different rules. The natural minor is exactly what's in the key signature, those 4 flats. The harmonic minor has a raised 7th note. I'm putting sharp, but I really mean raised. You know what, let's, instead of writing sharp, because it's not technically sharp. A lot of times it means sharp, but it's a raised 7th, which is the E flat becoming E natural. In the melodic minor, if the notes are ascending or moving in an upwards direction, we have a raised 6 and a raised 7. This means that D loses its flat and becomes natural, and E also loses its flat and becomes natural. So what we have going on here in the first part of the theme is the melodic minor F minor scale leading up to F. Now we have the best notes going on here for F minor, which would be F, and the note that makes it F minor, or most clearly F minor, which would be the A flat, happening at the end of the same measure. When we go to play the 3 notes going down, G, F, E, let's also do those with 1, 2, 3. So let me put some fingers in here that will help us along. So with this melodic minor scale, we want to do fingers 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on the A flat, 2 on the F, 1 on the A flat, move 1 down to G, to play 2 again on F, and 3 on E. That way you're not really losing your position, and the 2 remains on the F. The following four measures, your hand will be in exactly the same place. We have more of those Fs and A flats with 2 and 1. And before we move on to the next part in measure 41, I'd like to go back and fill in some of these chords that the right hand will be providing. So starting in measure 33, we have this chord here, B flat, C, and G. This is really like a C7 chord, or the dominant seventh of F minor. One thing I want to say about dominant chords, regardless if you're in a minor key or a major chord, a dominant chord is always a major chord. That's another reason why we change the E natural in or the seventh tone in a harmonic minor scale, is because that's what makes it a major chord. If we were to leave it as it's flat, it's a minor chord. It doesn't have the same effect. So we have this C7 chord to just the C and the F, kind of representing our F minor. Now this one right here is a very interesting chord. This is actually a G diminished chord. Let me write some of these things in. So measure 33, it was all about a C7 chord, or dominant 7. And measure 34 is all about an F minor chord, which is our tonic. It stays F minor in the following measure, and we move into a G diminished chord. The left hand kind of providing the root of the chord in that area. Going back to F minor in 37. We have that G diminished again happening in 39. And then finally with F minor again at the end of 40. So these ones here, we just have the 2 chords, right? Oh, we have 3 chords. I think C7, it makes sense that the only fingers you can play this with are 1, 2, and 5. When we play the G minor, it's very close to this chord. It's this chord right here. I want to also play this with 1, 2, and 5. So if that's the case, then probably 1 and 4 would work out really well with C and F. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Speed. Ba 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 bum ba bum ba da 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 da. All right, so now venturing over to measure 41. Let's take on the melody part first before we take on the chords. I'm saying 4 on the F because we're using this B natural quite frequently. That's happening at the last measure of this line. So working ourselves backwards, 4 would be F, 2 would be the A flat, 3 would be the G. We'll use thumb on the B flat and add the B natural at the end of the line. This phrase actually sort of ends at the first note of 45. We need to move down to the F natural that happens in 45, which would be finger 4. So if we were to take this phrase by phrase in this area, I would take it from 41 to the beginning of 45. At the next part of 45 is where the phrase kind of iterates a little bit of the same material. How about with this last little A flat, because it's kind of a bit of a pickup to the next part, here's where we're going to be changing it. At this moment, why don't we make this A flat a 3? I want to put this in a circle because it's not really where A flat was. It's not the finger that was on the A flat. But when we go to 49 and we need these 4 ascending notes, we want them with 4 different fingers. C being the highest note would end up being our thumb. Working backwards from there, B flat is 2, A flat is 3, and G is 4. So with our descending scale here, we're going to keep our hand in the same place because we're going to need to jump up to B flat. So G would be 4, B flat 2. But here is where we might want to consider changing what our hand is doing. We definitely don't want our thumb to be on a flat, so this A flat would need to be 3. But right here at G would be the perfect time to cross your thumb under to get in a good position to be doing the rest of the scale going down. How about on the repeated note, when we switch that to 2 and 3. So this way we're sort of avoiding crossing under 4s. 1, 2, 3, repeated note, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, our particular edition is ending on C. It's not actually ending on the chord F minor like the piece normally would, but we're only doing a selection of the piece and not the whole thing. So it doesn't really end in the place. It will end finally in the whole piece. So going back up to where we had left off with the right hand. This is way back up at 41. So let's take a look at 41 on with what the right hand's doing. Now the right hand, because it's trying not to get in the way of the left hand melody, it won't be played, very loud. It will just kind of be emphasizing the beat a little bit. So there's an interesting pattern that happens in here. Once we get past the initial C A flat, going over to F and C, these are probably best with fingers 1 4, 1 5. We have a series of 3 chords that change just slightly each time. In measure 43, we have this chord right here, which is technically a B flat minor. And then in the next measure, B becomes natural, which just makes it not really a B chord at all. It's actually a form of a G chord. And then in the next measure, the D becomes natural, which makes it a B diminished chord. "46, 47, and 48 are the same 3 chords with 2 flats. Now get rid of the B flat, and now get rid of the D flat. Let's see how those sound with the notes they're paired with. They sound a little unusual, but the piece is unusual. It's supposed to be characteristic of mischief happening, so these are kind of like mischief chords. Right hand we have E to D flat. In the next measure, F sharp to D. Then G sharp to E. Then A flat to F. Notice the sort of the change in tonalities by using some chord tone or non-chord tones, tones that don't happen in this key, and using sharps rather than flats. Here in measure 50, it's almost like having a D7 chord where you have D, F sharp, and C. But it's using F sharp rather than G flat, which is probably the key or the note that you would go for this. In this key, having flats already. However, because it's spelling a specific chord, D7, D7 has an F sharp in it. I think also when you're using G flat, it will look like a fifth on the paper. G flat to D will look like a fifth. A fifth that's a little too big, right? And now, because of the rules of music theory where fifths are perfect, they're not major or minor. They're perfect, or if they're a little too small, they're diminished. But if they're a little too big, they're no longer a fifth. It becomes a sixth. So on paper, we need to represent the sound of a sixth by looking like a sixth, which would be an F to a D. And same thing in the following measure, rather using A flat with E, because A flat is actually a note that's in the key. This sound is a sixth, and also paired with this note, it's just spelling the correct chord. And in the following measure, we have also a sixth using the same tone, G sharp and A flat. So enharmonic notes or enharmonic keys are keys that sound the same but look different on paper. In the following, or actually we haven't played that along with the left hand yet. Although sort of a strange choice for a chord, but it helps to add to the drama of the scene. Now the final line of our piece today. This is the first time that we have notes that are not staccato. Throughout the whole piece, the right hand, left hand, every single note has been staccato. This is the first opportunity where the right hand holds chords, holds notes. Okay, first I want to establish my tempo. Each click represents one full measure. I hope you enjoyed today's masterclass on the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and tune in for our next piece of classical music for Halloween.